Yeah, we back. Now, today's going to be a quick video. It's going to be a follow-up video to one I dropped the other day entitled, Algeria Shoots Down Mali Military Drone. And the one I dropped yesterday entitled, Mali and the AES say Algeria is a terrorist state. Now we are back with some more developments, and let me tell you, it is crazy what is going on out here in these streets. Now, just to recap on how we got to this point, tensions have been simmering between the governments of Mali and Algeria for the past couple years, right? After the military government in Mali rose to power, as you already know, they cut off many old agreements with many so-called traditional partners, right? Most notably, the traditional so-called Western partners like France, but also some regional partners like Algeria. Now, over the past couple years, there have been many allegations, a lot of speculation that Algeria is serving as a rear base for the terrorist groups, for certain terrorist groups, right? Particularly those that are situated along the border region between Mali and Algeria. Now, like I mentioned before, a rear base is like a safe space. It's like a safe zone, because once you go over the border, the military in Mali cannot chase them over the border because that is Algerian territory. So that is their safe space. It's where they can regroup. It's where they can get some medical attention. It's where they can stockpile supplies and weapons and then go over the border back into Mali for another attack. Now, the only way the terrorists are able to do this and get away with this is because they're doing it under the nose of the Algerian government and the Algerian law enforcement. Now, fast forward to recently, in the past week, Algeria shot down a Mali military drone out the sky. I believe the drone was conducting surveillance in an area that was deemed as a stronghold, as a hotbed for the terrorists. And then the Algerian government actually shot the drone out of the sky, alleging that it flew 2 kilometers into their airspace. Now, the government in Mali responded by saying that when the drone crashed, it was actually 10 kilometers away from the borderline and it crashed vertically. So the two governments are obviously in disagreement around the circumstances about the crash. Now, the governments of Mali, as well as all the governments of the AES as one bloc, responded by acknowledging this as a hostile act, an act of aggression against all 3 member states of the AES. Now, fast forward to today, we got headlines coming out that France and Algeria have resumed cooperation in all sectors: economic, military, diplomatic. It's crazy what's going on out here in these streets, bro. Take a look up on the screen. The French foreign minister visits Algeria after months of political tensions. France and Algeria agree to resume cooperation. That's crazy, bro. French and Algerian ties are now back to normal, according to France. What the hell? Now, let's jump into some of these articles. The French foreign minister, Jean-Noël Barrot, was in Algeria on Sunday at the invitation of the Algerian government. Now, time out. I'm thinking the French had reached out to the Algerians because they saw what was going on. So they was like, okay, bet, let me hit up the Algerians real quick. Let me click up with the Algerians. The Algerians actually reached out to the French and told the French, bro, come through, come to the crib, bro. Let's have a conversation. That's crazy. Let's continue. Barrot held talks with his Algerian counterpart on Sunday morning before meeting with the Algerian president. That is truly insane. And shout out to the subscriber that came into my comment section yesterday. He actually said, bro, we cannot afford to fight France and Algeria at the same time. Well, listen, bro, it seems like that choice is not up to us to make. It seems that the French and Algerians have decided to click up against the black man. So we don't have no choice, bro. It seems like we better buckle up our seatbelts. Now, let's continue. If you remember, a while back, I think like last summer, I dropped a video entitled, take a look up on the screen, Terrorist leader from Mali gets invited to French national TV. Now, that so-called terrorist leader was actually part of the same terrorist organization that uses Algeria as a rear base, right? The same exact terrorist group that is being supported by Algeria was actually invited to French national TV, right, to make their case for why they're rebelling against the government in Mali, right? Now, let me jog your memory for those of y'all who might have forgotten. You remember last year, there was a whole diplomatic incident between Ukraine and the AES, between Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger versus Ukraine, because it was alleged that Ukraine was providing weapons to the same exact terrorists that operate along the border of Mali and Algeria. There was headlines coming out like this. Take a look up on the screen. Ukrainian drones provide support for the northern Mali terrorists, right? I know they call them rebels, but on this channel, we call them terrorists, right? So the terrorists in northern Mali were actually using Ukrainian weapons that were provided to Ukraine. Somehow they fell into the hands of the terrorists and they were being used against the government in Mali. Now, of course, we know that Ukraine received a lot of weapons from the Biden administration from the United States, but also Ukraine received a lot of weapons from France. Take a look up on the screen. Remember these headlines coming out. France sending nearly 200 million euros in military equipment to Ukraine. Now, you remember sometime last August, take a look up on the screen. Mali cut ties with Ukraine following a deadly clash near the Algerian border. Mali announced it is breaking diplomatic relations with Ukraine, accusing a senior Ukrainian official of having admitted Ukraine's role in a heavy defeat that Malian troops suffered back in July. Now, if you remember, sometime last summer back in July, dozens of our brothers back in Mali got destroyed in a military battle between them terrorists, and it was alleged that the weapons that the terrorists had used in the battle actually were supplied by Ukraine. And shortly after that battle, those same terrorists went on social media and was posing with the Ukrainian flag, I guess, showing their allegiance to who backed them in the battle. So take a look up on the screen, as you can see. And then shortly after that, the spokesperson for the Ukrainian military actually came on social media and alleged that, yes, Ukraine, yes, we provided the intel and the weapons, and we helped the terrorists, the so-called rebels in the north, carry out a successful military operation. And then shortly after that, all 3 member states in the AES cut diplomatic ties with Ukraine. And even recently, the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Mali actually reiterated that statement and said, take a look up on the screen, for us, Ukraine is a terrorist state. So that's where they stand with Ukraine. Now let's continue. The military government in Mali has reportedly been shocked to learn of remarks made by Andriy Yusov, a spokesman for Ukraine's military intelligence agency, who had admitted Ukraine's involvement in a cowardly, treacherous, and barbaric attack by armed terrorist groups that led to the deaths of Malian soldiers. Now, that article came out last year. So we already know there was a connection between France, Ukraine, and those terrorist groups. And those same terrorist groups use Algeria as a rear base, as a safe haven. So we know the connection now. We have now made the connection between France, Algeria, and the terrorist groups. And now, coincidentally, after Algeria has now taken hostile action and shot a military drone of the AES out of the sky, now, all of a sudden, coincidentally, the Algerian president has invited the French to his country. Let's have bilateral cooperation. Let's have discussions, right? Let's resume cooperation in all sectors. This man said we are resuming cooperation in all sectors, right? Economic, militarily, diplomatic. Man, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. But that's the reality of the matter. That's what the black man got to deal with. Now, the biggest thing that the heads of state of the AES has to be worried about is increased destabilization, right? Because we know the terrorists receive weapons indirectly from France, right? And then they're able to receive safe haven and medical care from Algeria. So they receive the arms from the West, then they go to Algeria to rest and regroup. So as you can see, the black man is getting tag teamed by the dusty camel riders and the Western imperialists. We getting tag teamed, right? They joining forces against the black man. This is ridiculous, bro. This is crazy. Now, with France and Algeria resuming cooperation in all sectors, as they claim, which includes military cooperation, now that means that France can supply weapons directly to Algeria. And covertly, those weapons can indirectly, by magic, fall into the hands of the terrorists, indirectly. So if I was a minister in the government of Mali or Burkina Faso or Niger or any of the states in the AES, that's one of the things I'd be the most worried about, to be honest. And let me just speak bluntly and just, frankly, for a couple seconds. If I was a head of state, I would not want any of my neighbors to have any diplomatic ties with any of my enemies, any hostile nations. I would think that, to me, that's a red line, right? If I was a head of state and I have my neighbors, I would not allow any of my neighbors to have open relations with those who I deem to be hostile countries. I would not allow it. To me, that's a red line, and you are trying to provoke me. That's an act of provocation in my eyes, right? To me, that's what I feel like. That's what I believe. I know every country has the right to engage with whoever they want to engage with, but to me, that's a red line for me you cannot cross. But it is what it is. Let's just sit back and observe the developments. Anyways, it's your boy Nevercard. That's Salim back in the Billy. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel. Album out now. Sahel 1816. Go to my playlist section and I'm gone. Peace. Told me she loved me and said that it's real. So independent, ain't signing no deal. Feel like a king and I'm up at Cap Henry. I'm in the citadel, top of the hill. Trying to run up and we let off a cannon. Secret location, I'm keeping it sealed. You ain't retaliate, Franco Medina came to the country and he got killed. You ain't retaliate, Rafi and Mans. Thought you was loyal, thought you was real. Didn't even wanna come pick up the body. Had your man locked up, he died in the cell. Up at the palace, I'm throwing a party. Right on the south and I'm giving them hell. And my little shorty, she looking exotic. African features, she casting a spell. Run to the check like I work on my fitness. Wake up each morning and handle my business. Said that she love me, she want my genetics. Wanna get married and make it official. Wanna get married and have my babies. Up in the city, I'm riding Mercedes. Up in the city, they treat me like royalty. Feeling like Dolph, talking about lords. Spreading my wings and I had to get fly. Up in the top, an incredible vibe. Came from the bottom, I'm up in the sky. Everyone look and said, baby, you fine. Wake up each morning and handle my business. They just be talking, you see me, I live it. Ride on my enemies, sounding like thunder. 1804, got that shit in my spirit. 1804 when I step in the building. 1804, that's word of my mother. Rock my women and die for my brother. Never gon' fold when I'm deep under pressure. Tell them we back and they better accept it. Move like a king, every step is divine. Ride on my enemies with no exception. Taking revenge and I'm taking what's mine. Pour up a drink and it's time that we toast. Watching my back, keep my enemies close. Only the family, I stick with my brothers. Cannon's position outside of the coast. Heavy artillery for the protection. Move like a general, stick to the code. Feel like a king when I'm up in the north. Beautiful women, they trying to get chose. Launch an invasion all over the south. Capture the capital with all my woes. Look at my energy and my demeanor. Dripping that ice and that's head to my toes. Lately I'm flexing all on the Americans. Flexing my muscle on missing my road. Just got a carriage just coming from London. Boy, that shit cash, I ain't taking no loans. Boy, that shit cash, that's fresh on the boat. Enemy know I got millions in gold. Enemy know I got choppers and cannons. How did I do it? They can't understand it. How did I do it? It's cause I'm relentless. Call me King Harry, my name is cemented. Call me King Harry, I'm up in the palace. Call me King Harry, I'm raising the status.